Have you ever noticed how everything begins quietly, almost unnoticed? A child takes their first breath. A business opens its doors. A friendship sparks with a simple word. And yet, at the same time, the foundations for what comes next are already being laid. Why does the world appear solid and permanent in these moments, when in truth, everything is already moving toward change? Why does joy slip away, relationships shift, and achievements fade, no matter how tightly you hold them? The Buddha taught this rhythm of existence with piercing clarity. In the Mahapadana Sutta, he said, "All compounded things are impermanent. Work diligently to understand this, and freedom will be found." He named the stages in Pali: Uppāda, Thiti, Bhanga, Vibhanga. Everything arises, abides, decays, and dissolves. This is not a distant teaching meant only for monks or scholars. It is the pulse of life itself, flowing through the universe, through cities and homes, through the triumphs and losses you experience every day. You may spend your life chasing permanence, believing stability can be captured. You hold tightly to relationships, projects, and dreams, hoping the moment will last. Yet the truth is that the unfolding cycle, birth, flourishing, decline, and dissolution, is what gives life its depth, its beauty, and its meaning. To understand this clearly is not despair. It is empowerment. It is to know that every beginning is a gift, every peak is temporary, and every ending is natural. By understanding this rhythm, you gain clarity, presence, and courage. The cycles of the cosmos are reflected in your own life, and in recognizing them, the ordinary transforms into something deeply meaningful, revealing the patterns that guide all things. Birth, formation, and becoming, Uppāda. Every beginning is the convergence of countless conditions. The Buddha taught that all compounded things emerge through causes and conditions. Uppāda. Nothing arises in isolation. Each first step, each new venture, each spark of awareness is the meeting point of influences both visible and unseen. Life does not simply appear. It unfolds as the intricate interplay of circumstance, effort, timing, and readiness. Every beginning arises within a web of countless conditions, interconnected, delicate, and rich with possibility. A newborn child draws a first breath, and in that quiet instant, generations of care, nourishment, and unseen timing converge. The mother's strength, the sustenance of family, the rhythms of biology, and the readiness of the world all align. Recognizing this mutual dependence reveals both the delicacy and the immense promise inherent in every birth. What appears small and private is, in truth, a moment of cosmic synchrony. Awareness of this can deepen understanding. Every arising, however ordinary it seems, carries within it the weight and breadth of life itself. Beginnings are mirrored in human activity. When a new project commences at work, every decision, from preparation to execution, is shaped by converging conditions. The skills of collaborators, the timing of opportunity, prior experience, and even chance align to give form to what was previously absent. A simple decision to speak honestly in a relationship, to pursue a course of study, or to embark on a personal goal sets into motion forces whose impact may extend far beyond immediate perception. Beginnings are ordinary and miraculous simultaneously, conditioned yet pregnant with transformative potential. Even within yourself, each choice represents a microcosm of this principle. Acts of courage, curiosity, or commitment arise from countless converging factors: mental readiness, attention, prior knowledge, encouragement, and external circumstances. Recognizing these conditions cultivates presence. To act consciously within this flow is to engage with life in alignment with its natural rhythm. Every first step, every initial effort, contains the capacity to ripple outward, shaping what will come next. Uncertainty is inseparable from the very nature of arising. The first day in a new role, the opening words in a nascent friendship, the initial act of self-discipline, all carry a delicate tension between possibility and unpredictability. No beginning emerges fully formed. Its strength and vulnerability coexist. To meet these early moments with attentiveness is to witness life as it truly unfolds, without forcing or clinging. Communities and social structures reflect the same principle. A newly formed organization, a civic initiative, or a cultural movement emerges through the alignment of countless subtle causes: collaboration, shared intention, dialogue, and timing. Visible outcomes are only the tip of the complex network beneath. By recognizing this mutual reliance, you can see the sacredness of beginnings at every scale, from the personal to the societal, and the responsibility inherent in nurturing them. Even the most mundane choices echo this rhythm: a gesture of kindness, a patient explanation, a decision to listen carefully. All are conditioned, yet each carries the capacity to influence outcomes far beyond what is immediately apparent. Beginnings, however small, are microcosms of the larger order of existence, interlinked, transient, yet brimming with promise. Each arising is also an encounter with impermanence. Every start carries the implicit truth that conditions will shift, circumstances will change, and outcomes may not last. Understanding this does not diminish a beginning's significance. Rather, it intensifies the attention, care, and reverence with which it can be approached. The delicate nature of a beginning, when recognized, becomes its strength. Ultimately, every beginning embodies connection, possibility, and transformation. From a personal choice to a societal initiative, from a moment of insight to the commencement of a new venture, each arising is both ordinary and miraculous. No beginning is isolated. Every convergence of conditions, every point of arising, is a sacred opportunity to witness the rhythm of existence and engage consciously with the unfolding of life. In recognizing this, beginnings are met with presence, awareness, and reverence, revealing the profound truth that nothing arises alone, and every arising shapes the continuum of existence. Flourishing, stability, and alignment, a Thiti. After arising, all things enter a period of stability. The Buddha called this stage Thiti, when what has been formed continues to exist, sustained by conditions delicately aligned. It is the phase in which effort, circumstance, and timing converge to allow forms to persist. In this moment, life displays vitality, coherence, and the radiance of potential fully expressed. Yet, even at its apparent permanence, Thiti is impermanent. Just like a tiny seed buried in the soil, slowly beginning to sprout, growth depends on countless factors: moisture, sunlight, nutrients, and protection from insects, animals, or even the unintended steps of passers-by. What appears steady and enduring is woven from such delicate, shifting conditions, each capable of tipping the balance at any moment. To witness flourishing is to behold brilliance, but also to sense the fragility at the heart of every form, a reminder that all peaks are temporary. Flourishing is not merely existence. It is the manifestation of capacity, presence, and engagement with the world. It is the fullness of thought, skill, and relationship made visible. Every achievement, every deep connection, every moment of mastery arises from alignment. Preparation meets opportunity, effort meets response, intention meets circumstance. Even the most radiant periods are transient. Stability is a gift of convergence, and its beauty lies precisely in its temporary perfection. An invitation for you to notice, appreciate, and engage with each moment fully. Human life provides countless reflections of Thiti. A scholar reaches a period of clarity and insight after years of study. A musician performs with precision and emotional depth, channeling both practice and inspiration. A leader orchestrates a complex project successfully, drawing upon the collective efforts of a team. All of these moments arise from conditions converging: skill, effort, support, and timing. And yet, underlying this brilliance is the subtle presence of impermanence. Health may waver, attention may falter, and external circumstances may shift, revealing the delicate temporality of even the most accomplished moments. Even at its height, stability is fragile. When a peak feels permanent, it is easy to mistake it for an unchanging foundation. You may feel the urge to hold tightly to influence, status, or relationships, trying to freeze a moment that is inherently fleeting. This attachment brings tension, anxiety, and resistance when change inevitably arrives. Thiti, the stage of flourishing, is a teacher. The peak is never static, but a moment within a dynamic process. By noticing the impermanence of what thrives, you can meet each moment with awareness rather than clinging, aligning your experience with the natural rhythm of arising and ceasing. Flourishing also appears in subtle ways, beyond obvious success. The harmony of collaboration in a team, the intimacy of a conversation that deepens understanding, the satisfaction of tasks completed with care, all reflect the delicate alignment of conditions. Relationships thrive when trust, attention, empathy, and mutual respect come together. Even these fragile harmonies are subject to change. Nothing exists independently, and nothing persists in isolation. Every moment of flourishing is woven from countless interdependent threads. Communities and societies exemplify this principle on a larger scale. Institutions operate effectively when coordination, shared purpose, and sustained effort intersect. Cultural movements gain momentum when individuals' actions converge around common ideals. Moments of societal thriving are contingent, not guaranteed. The fragility of these conditions is visible in history. Shifts in circumstance, conflict, or environment can unravel what seemed enduring. Understanding this prevents despair. It allows appreciation of the brilliance of flourishing while remaining mindful of its impermanence. Even everyday experiences are microcosms of this principle. The ease of a day flowing smoothly, a creative project advancing with momentum, a dialogue that opens insight, all arise from interdependent conditions. Recognition of these patterns allows the mind to perceive stability not as a static state, but as a dynamic balance, a temporary harmony of forces. This awareness fosters presence, gratitude, and clarity, rather than clinging or fear. The subtlety of Thiti teaches that stability is rarely solitary. personal growth depends on mentors, colleagues, friends, and circumstances beyond oneself. Relationships flourish through mutual engagement. Communities thrive through coordinated effort. Even when things seem solid, the web of interdependence remains active, holding both flourishing and the seeds of future change. This interplay reveals that life's peaks are never truly isolated or permanent. They arise and fade in harmony with the shifting currents of surrounding conditions. In this understanding, flourishing becomes both revelation and teacher. It is a demonstration of what arises when effort, circumstance, and intention converge. It shows the brilliance of alignment and the power of interconnection. Yet it also reminds us that no condition is eternal, and no moment of peak experience escapes impermanence. The insight of Thiti teaches appreciation, attentiveness, and respect for the fleeting, luminous patterns that arise. Stability is not an endpoint to grasp, but a phase to inhabit fully, with awareness of both its beauty and its limits. Ultimately, growth and flourishing reveal the delicate dance of existence. Brilliance and fragility, capacity and transience, effort and dependence. They coexist inseparably. When you witness this rhythm in your own life, you see both the wonder of what thrives and the inevitability of change. Understanding flourishing in this way deepens your engagement with each moment, allowing every peak to be experienced with clarity, reverence, and insight, free from clinging, aware of impermanence, and attuned to the interdependence that shapes all things. Decline, aging and decay, Bhanga. Decline rarely announces itself with dramatic collapse. More often, it unfolds quietly while systems appear intact. Governments function, corporations operate, and social routines persist. On the surface, life seems stable. Yet beneath this apparent order, something essential is eroding. This is Bhanga, the gradual weakening of alignment that sustains life, power, and trust. Across the world today, corruption moves silently but relentlessly. It thrives not in spectacular scandals alone, but in the repetition of small compromises, the bending of rules, and the quiet favoring of influence over justice. Governments prioritize expedience and political gain over the welfare of citizens. Corporations chase profit at the expense of ethical responsibility. Social systems increasingly reward the already advantaged while neglecting those in need. Each compromise, though small in isolation, accumulates imperceptibly. The machinery of society continues to operate, yet its integrity frays, like a rope worn thin by invisible strain. The consequences are visible not only in weakened institutions, but in the erosion of public trust. Everywhere. Citizens hesitate to believe in the promises of leaders, the fairness of markets, or the efficacy of laws. Civic engagement diminishes, not abruptly, but gradually, as doubt seeps into daily life. Confidence in authority weakens, and with it, the invisible threads that bind communities together. When trust thins, society loses more than belief. It loses cohesion, a sense of shared purpose, and the resilience that allows collective life to flourish. This erosion is not confined to one nation or region. Across continents, similar patterns emerge. Streets fill with protests born of frustration. Parliaments stall under partisan gridlock. Public services fail to meet the most basic needs, and the inequality gap widens in cities and nations alike. The world is fragmented by subtle failures repeated everywhere. Failures that, when accumulated, make even the most sophisticated systems brittle. The weakening reaches deep into the health and vitality of the population. Public systems that are underfunded, unevenly distributed, or skewed toward profit leave human bodies and minds vulnerable. Chronic stress accumulates under economic pressures, excessive workloads, and systemic unpredictability. Nutrition, rest, and care become privileges rather than guarantees. Anxiety, fatigue, and preventable illness rise quietly, almost imperceptibly, until they can no longer be ignored. Life continues, yet resilience falters. Citizens grow weaker, not because of a single catastrophe, but because the conditions that sustain well-being have quietly frayed. Bhanga is impartial. It does not discriminate. It touches the powerful and the powerless, institutions and citizens alike. Alignment, the cohesion of trust, accountability, and ethical conduct, is fragile. Its erosion is subtle, yet cumulative. Each act of compromise, each withdrawal of responsibility, each systemic inequity contributes to a thinning of social coherence. What once appeared durable and dependable gradually becomes contingent, unstable, and vulnerable. The weight of this process is felt in the ordinary rhythms of life. People experience delays, frustration, uncertainty, and tension, where once there was ease and confidence. Health systems strain under predictable pressures. Economic disparities widen quietly, yet relentlessly. Social contracts, assumed and unspoken, fray under repeated small betrayals. By the time a crisis erupts, the deeper erosion has already set the stage. It is too late to restore alignment with a single effort. Bhanga is instructive. It does not demand despair, but recognition. By seeing the thinning of alignment clearly, one understands that stability is never guaranteed, and that the cost of neglect accumulates silently, but inevitably. Nothing remains fixed, not influence, not power, not the well-being of a society. Decline is not the end, but a stage that prepares the ground for what inevitably comes next. When societal structures are stretched thin, trust has dissipated, and health falters across populations. When governance no longer reliably serves the common good anywhere in the world, the stage is set for Vibhanga, dissolution. Decline is not a separate event, but the gradual weakening that makes the eventual release, disbanding, and redistribution unavoidable. The erosion of alignment signals that what once held together, anywhere or everywhere, will ultimately disperse. Dissolution, death and returning to emptiness, Vibhanga. Everything that arises is destined to disperse. What takes form through conditions does not simply weaken, it eventually releases its shape entirely. Vibhanga is this final movement, not erosion, but disbanding, not aging, but disappearance. What once held coherence loses its boundaries. Energies scatter. Structures dissolve back into unformed potential. Nothing in this world is permanent, from bodies and objects to power itself. Civilizations rise when extraordinary alignment occurs. Vision, discipline, resources, belief, and coordination converging into something formidable. At their height, they shape the world around them. Angkor commanded landscapes and labor. Egypt organized time, knowledge, and authority into enduring order. Rome marshaled law, infrastructure, and military power to unify vast territories. These were not merely societies. They were expressions of dominance, meaning, and control over reality. And then, slowly or suddenly, they are no longer able to hold themselves together, illustrating the law of conditioned existence in human history. Authority disperses, shared meaning fractures. The force that once unified millions loosens its grip. When the center can no longer hold, dissolution begins. The ruins appear later. Vibhanga does not start with collapse. It starts when the power that sustained a structure can no longer reproduce itself. This is the law of conditioned existence. What rises through alignment falls when alignment disperses. You can observe the same rhythm in the cosmos. Stars ignite through immense convergence, burn with extraordinary force, then exhaust their fuel and scatter into space. Galaxies form, rotate, unravel. Nothing that gathers energy indefinitely retains its shape forever. Dissolution is not destruction. It is release from form. In the natural world, what stands upright eventually returns to soil. Matter breaks down, recombines, and feeds new life. Nothing is wasted. Nothing remains exactly as it was. Vibhanga is not an endpoint. It is redistribution, transformation, and preparation for what comes next. In this scattering, the conditions for future arising quietly gather. The release of one structure seeds the possibility of another. Dissolved forms provide the ground for new alignment. Your own life mirrors this principle. Your body eventually relinquishes its structure. Breath stops. Heat dissipates. The elements that compose you separate. What you once called yourself no longer maintains a boundary, yet nothing truly vanishes. Your matter, influence, memory, and consequences continue onward, reshaping conditions you may never witness. Even while alive, you encounter Vibhanga in smaller ways. Projects end completely. Jobs disappear. Relationships conclude not by fading, but by release. Identities you once inhabited dissolve, leaving no structure to return to. These endings feel final because they are complete. They do not decline further. They are gone. And yet, in their dispersal, the potential for new beginnings quietly gathers. And still, life continues. This is the essential clarity of dissolution. Nothing holds forever, but nothing ends in nothingness. What disperses becomes the foundation for what follows. Power dissolves, meaning disperses, form releases, and your potential remains. New alignments may emerge where conditions allow, as they always have. Even your mind follows this law. Thoughts vanish without residue. Emotions arise and completely cease. Entire inner worlds appear convincing, then disappear without trace. When you observe this directly, you loosen the belief that anything, inside or outside, can be possessed or preserved. Vibhanga is impartial. It claims emperors and insects, galaxies and ideas, bodies and beliefs. It does not punish, it completes. What once required effort to maintain finally rests. When you see dissolution clearly, fear loosens its grip. You stop demanding permanence from what was never meant to last. You can meet endings without resentment. You recognize that every conclusion is also a return into possibility, into openness, into conditions yet unknown. What rises will fall. What gathers will disperse. What dissolves will become the ground for something else. This is not loss. This is the rhythm of existence, completing itself and quietly preparing for what may arise next. Embracing impermanence. All that arises is impermanent. The Buddha taught that everything that forms follows a cycle. Uppāda, becoming. Thiti, stability. Bhanga, decline. And Vibhanga, dissolution. Nothing exists independently or eternally. Each form, each moment is conditioned, sustained by countless causes, and inevitably subject to change. To witness this full rhythm, from formation to flourishing, from decline to dissolution, is to sense the pulse of existence itself, quiet, impartial, and continuous. The universe reveals this principle with striking clarity. Stars ignite, burn, and fade. Planets coalesce from dust and drift into new alignments. Even structures that appear timeless are shaped, worn, and transformed by forces beyond control. Impermanence is not a flaw in reality. It is its defining character, the framework within which all existence unfolds. Human life mirrors this cosmic pattern intimately. A newborn's first breath is fragile, yet miraculous, carrying potential and promise. Youth matures into adulthood, abilities flourish, creativity ripens, and relationships deepen. Eventually, strength wanes, senses soften, and the body grows frail. Every stage reflects the same universal movement. To see impermanence clearly is not to despair. It is to see life fully, with presence and understanding. In the smallest moments, this truth is already visible. A conversation that sparks connection may end in silence. A creative effort, once effortless, may demand struggle. Friendships and collaborations evolve or drift apart. Each shift arises from changing conditions: circumstance, effort, intention, chance. Impermanence is neither punishment nor accident. It is the structure of conditioned existence itself. Joy, love, and laughter are no exception. A child's laugh fills a room and disappears. A quiet exchange leaves an imprint, though the moment itself dissolves. This transience does not diminish experience. It intensifies it. Moments are precious, precisely because they do not last. Beauty and connection draw their meaning from their fleeting nature. Daily life offers constant mirrors of this truth. A routine once effortless shifts as energy or circumstance changes. Tasks that once brought ease now require care. Creative projects fade in influence yet leave subtle traces. Skills learned, insight gained, inspiration passed forward. Even the ordinary reveals impermanence, inviting attention, gratitude, and presence. Communities and civilizations reflect the same law on a broader scale. Thriving cities change as generations pass. Institutions evolve or dissolve. Traditions transform. What once seemed permanent contributes to the conditions for what follows. Ancient civilizations remind us that influence does not vanish when forms fade. It continues through memory, culture, and consequence. Understanding impermanence here cultivates humility and clarity, loosening the illusion of permanence in collective life. The human body offers perhaps the most intimate lesson. Strength and vitality emerge, peak, and gradually decline. Each breath and sensation arises and passes. Even the mind, capable of focus, insight, and creativity, shifts subtly with time. Recognizing this is not resignation. It is a way of meeting life with care and attentiveness. Each stage carries its own depth when seen clearly. Relationships reveal impermanence with equal honesty. Bonds form through trust and shared experience, then deepen, drift, or transform. Connection is never ownership. It is a temporary alignment of causes. The loosening of closeness is not failure. It is part of the same rhythm of arising and ceasing. Seeing this allows presence without clinging, appreciation without fear. Creative and intellectual pursuits follow the same pattern. Skills evolve, ideas change, projects conclude, influence rises and falls. Each achievement depends on conditions aligning. When this is understood, engagement becomes freer, rooted in joy of creation rather than attachment to outcome. What ends does not vanish. It transforms, shaping what comes next. To embrace impermanence is to recognize the continuity within change. What fades carries the conditions for future arising. A completed effort informs the next. A life well lived leaves traces long after the body returns to the elements. Dissolution is not annihilation, but transformation, a return to potential from which new forms emerge. The clarity born of impermanence reshapes how life is lived. Moments are met fully rather than grasped. Change is understood rather than resisted. Formation, flourishing, decline, and dissolution are seen as inseparable movements of the same rhythm. Nothing is diminished by this understanding. Everything is deepened. When impermanence is truly seen, beginnings are met with care, peaks with gratitude, decline with dignity, and endings without fear. Life is no longer something to hold still, but something to participate in consciously. To embrace impermanence is not to lose meaning. It is to discover where meaning has always lived, within the fragile, fleeting, and luminous flow of existence. If this wisdom resonates with you, please like this video and subscribe to join us on the path of conscious living.